latest book, but I wanted to sort of think about like what were the influences in science fiction, speculative fiction that really seeped into you. So you mentioned Tolkien and Robert Heinlein. Were there other authors that were particularly influential to you that stick in your mind as folks that whose work really sedimented in your imagination?
It must be in part the I see this word "Anaris project" behind your head. And so I have to think of Ursula Le Guin.
Mm.
And she is just such a giantess of science fiction and fantasy. Like, it's kind of hard to think of anybody who has done so much interesting philosophical work. I've read her in my 20s. I reread the Earthsea, except the last two books, to my son, because the last two, three books are just difficult for an 8-year-old, right? Um, I think the sorts of things that she does, like the sorts of topics that science fiction authors now look at a lot, like, for example, gender. If you look at, say, Anne Leckie and her ancillary books, there is some exploration of what does gender mean when you have a gender blind person, in fact, who, and it's really interesting to see it through the lens of this person. But with Le Guin, you have these explorations, like in fantasy when and science fiction, when there was hardly any attention for these things. Like you have it a little bit in even like Heinlein and James Tiptree Jr. and people like that. But um, I think that if I had to pick like one author, then I think I should probably pick Le Guin because of the scope of the stuff that she does.
Well, we're obviously,